There is a prayer, carved into stone in 1350 BC, inside a tomb no one was supposed to enter. It describes one God, a creator, a sustainer of life. It speaks of darkness before dawn, of animals waking, of the world breathing only because he allows it. You have heard these words before. You just don't know where. 600 years after this prayer was carved, someone wrote it again, word for word, image for image. The same God creating the same world in the same order. It became Psalm 104, one of the most sacred texts in the Bible. Scholars noticed the connection. And then the real question surfaced. Who wrote the original? And why was he erased from history? Egypt remembered every pharaoh. For 3,000 years, their names carved in stone, their deeds inscribed in temples. Every single one, except him. His name was cut from every wall. His face smashed from every relief. His city abandoned and buried. When later pharaohs compiled the official list of rulers, he simply did not exist. The most dangerous man in Egyptian history had been unmade. His name was Akhenaten. He ruled Egypt for 17 years, from 1353 to 1336 BC. In that time, he did something no ruler in history had done before. He looked at 5,000 years of Egyptian religion, hundreds of gods, thousands of priests, centuries of ritual, and declared it all wrong. There was only one God, and Akhenaten was his only son. He closed the temples, all of them. He taxed the priests into ruin. He sent workers across Egypt with hammers to chisel the name of Amun from every surface they could find, even from objects too small to read, even from places no living eye would ever see. This was not policy. This was war. A war against 3,000 years of belief, fought with stone and silence. And yet, he failed, not because his enemies were stronger, but because his words survived him, buried in a tomb, hidden in a dead city, waiting 600 years to be written again, in a book that would be read by billions. This is the story of the Pharaoh who tried to destroy every god in Egypt, and accidentally gave the world its first prayer. He was not supposed to be Pharaoh. Akhenaten was the second son, the spare, not the heir. His older brother Thutmose was being groomed for the throne, trained, prepared, and then Thutmose died. Suddenly, quietly. No record explains how. The second son stepped forward, and Egypt would never recover. When he took power, he ruled as Amenhotep IV, a traditional name honoring the god Amun. For 4 years, nothing seemed unusual. He built temples. He made offerings. He played the role, but something was already shifting. In the 5th year of his reign, he changed his name. Amenhotep, Amun is satisfied, became Akhenaten, effective for Aten. The war had begun. The god Aten was not new. He was a minor deity, one face of the sun among hundreds. But Akhenaten saw something in him that no one else had, or claimed to. He declared that he alone could communicate with Aten. No priests, no intermediaries, no rituals, just the pharaoh and his god. In one move, he made every temple in Egypt obsolete, and every priest his enemy. In the 5th year of his reign, he made his most radical move. He chose a site in the desert, uninhabited land belonging to no god, no temple, no city. And there he built his new capital from nothing. Akhenaten, the horizon of Aten, 300 square kilometers of palaces, temples, roads, homes, constructed in under 5 years. An entire civilization built to house one idea. He built his city on a promise. Boundary stones were erected around Akhenaten, 14 of them, carved with his oath. He swore never to expand the city's borders, never to leave. And most strangely, he swore that even if Nefertiti angered him, even if his own children angered him, he would not abandon Akhenaten, a pharaoh swearing loyalty, not to Egypt, to a city, to an idea. The great hymn to the Aten was written here, in this city. Most scholars believe Akhenaten composed it himself, the only pharaoh in history to write his own theology. It described a universe with one creator, one light, one truth. It was radical. It was beautiful. It was 3,500 years ahead of its time, and it was about to destroy everything he had built. While Akhenaten prayed, his empire was dying. The Amarna letters, 382 clay tablets found in the ruins of his city, tell the story he never wanted told. Vassal kings across Canaan wrote to him, desperate, pleading. The Hittites were advancing. Cities were falling. And the pharaoh who controlled the sun never sent his armies. He sent prayers instead. Rib-Hadda, king of Byblus, wrote 68 letters to Akhenaten. 68, each one more desperate than the last. Send archers, send soldiers, send anyone. No response came. His city fell. He was murdered by his own brother. His letters survived him, buried in the sand of a city that had already stopped listening. They were found 3,000 years later, still unanswered. Inside Egypt, the resistance was quieter, but deadlier. The priests of Amun had not disappeared. They had gone underground. For 17 years they watched, waited, preserved the old rituals in secret, kept the names of the forbidden gods alive in whispers. Every temple Akhenaten closed became a wound in Egyptian society that refused to heal. He had declared war on 3,000 years of belief. And belief was patient. Then Nefertiti vanished. In the 12th year of his reign, she simply disappears from the record. No death announcement. No tomb. No explanation. The woman who stood beside him as an equal, who appeared on temple walls, smiting enemies like a pharaoh, gone. Some scholars believe she died. Others that she was exiled. A few argue she became his co-ruler under a different name. The silence is absolute, and in ancient Egypt, silence was never accidental. Akhenaten died in his 17th year of reign, quietly, without drama. No battle, no assassination recorded, no plague documented. He simply stopped, and with him, everything he built began to collapse immediately. His city was abandoned within 3 years, his temples stripped for stone, his god forgotten so fast, it was as if Aten had never existed. 17 years of revolution, undone in months. Only the hymn remained, carved too deep to erase. He erased everyone else from history, and in the end, history lost him too. In 1907, archaeologists opened Tomb KV-55 in the Valley of the Kings. Inside, a desecrated coffin, the golden face torn off, the name scratched out, a single skeleton. After a century of DNA tests, CT scans, and furious debate, scientists still cannot agree if it is him. The pharaoh who tried to control everything couldn't even control his own death. The boy who inherited his throne was 9 years old. His name had been Tutankhaten, living image of Aten. Within 2 years of taking power, he changed it. Tutankhamen, living image of Amun. The old god was back. The child pharaoh, most likely guided by powerful priests and advisors, had undone his father's life work with a single stroke of a chisel. He was 9 years old, and he had just ended a religion. After Tutankhamen came Horemheb, a general, a pragmatist, a man with no patience for loose ends. He launched the most systematic erasure in Egyptian history. Teams of workers moved across the country with one mission: remove Akhenaten from existence, his name, his image, his city, his god. The official king lists were rewritten. Between Amenhotep III and Horemheb, 17 years of history simply disappeared, as if Akhenaten had never drawn breath. Akhenaten, his perfect city, was stripped to its foundations. The stone was taken to build other cities, other temples, other monuments to other gods. Within a generation, the desert began to reclaim what was left. Sand covered the streets. Wind erased the outlines. By the time of Ramesses the Great, barely a century later, no living Egyptian could point to where the city had stood. The horizon of Aten had become the horizon of nothing. He was lost for 3,000 years. Then in 1887, an Egyptian woman digging in the ruins of Amarna found something strange in the sand. Clay tablets covered in unknown writing. She sold them at market for a few coins. They were the Amarna letters, the desperate cries of a dying empire. And they led archaeologists back to the city, back to the tombs, back to the hymn carved on the wall, back to him. 600 years after Akhenaten died, someone wrote his prayer again. Psalm 104. The same creator, the same light, the same world breathing because God allows it. Most scholars today believe the connection is real, that the hymn influenced the psalm through Canaan, through trade routes, through the slow movement of ideas across centuries. The man erased from every wall in Egypt survived in the most read book in human history. He just didn't get the credit. 3,000 years ago, a pharaoh looked at every god in Egypt and said, "None of you are real. There is only one." He lost everything for that idea. His city, his legacy, his name, his face, even his body, lying in a museum somewhere, still unidentified. But his words, his prayer to the light, outlived every king who tried to erase him. That is either the greatest irony in history, or the greatest proof that some ideas cannot be killed. You decide.